Well, some people hold the view that 100 days is not enough to give a holistic assessment of an administration's performance. However, people also hold the view, and very strongly too, that 100 days is more than enough for a government to show her policy direction to the people, for a government to show the trajectory that she intends to travel through, to bring prosperity and peace to the people. But sadly, what we have seen, in the last 100 days is a superfluity of nothing. The governor was unable to explain to the people yesterday when he was being interviewed his plan and his purpose for the people. How can it be that in just 100 days we have seen the governor commit impeachable offenses? In 100 days, we have seen the governor disobey court orders and ignore Supreme Court rulings. In 100 days, we have seen a complete destruction of the digital infrastructure Edo is known to have. In 100 days, we have seen touts and hooligans come back to our streets to enforce collection of revenues. In 100 days, wherever you go, people ask you, are you from Edo State? And they make mockery of you because we've made merchandise of ourselves. And they tell you that your governor is not even able to read his own budget figures. In 100 days, we've seen the deputy governor, almost lose his mind because he's been excluded from key government functions and cannot even be allowed to nominate a commissioner from his local government. In 100 days, we've seen the governor appoint majorly people from his own local community. And Edo people are saying this is extreme ethnocentric chauvinism, syphilitic parochialism, and epileptic nepotism, if you allow me to borrow the words of Patrick Obayegbon. So Edo people are hopeless, and it is a shame because before now, we were the cynosure of all eyes. Everyone was coming to Edo to see what was going on. Edo was the first state in West Africa to go completely paperless. When we were in government, all government correspondence, mail or memos, were done through our ERP platform. And what were we doing? We were improving efficiency, improving effectiveness, reducing corruption. And we had other subnationals, Lagos, Kwara, Delta, come to learn from what we're doing in Edo. We even had national government. Rwanda came here, Kenya came here to figure out what are you doing differently. Edo was on a path of progress and on a trajectory of prosperity. But suddenly we have the temporary government, if you allow me, today has pushed all those aside. And on the interview the governor had yesterday, you could see a pile of files on his table. And I was in quandary, how fast have we deteriorated? We were not using files any longer in Edo State. Civil servants had 48 hours to respond to mails or memos, and they could easily do that on their devices. We made available laptops across the civil and public service. How come is it that Edo now, nobody's talking about us in glowing terms any longer, but we've made mockery of ourselves, and they're making mockery of governance? What you just saw just now was skit making. Is that what Edo is now known for, content creation? When the people are yearning for development, and they're wondering, Edo people used to be so proud of the government we had in Godwin Obaseki. If it came to digital transformation, Edo was #1. If it came to improving the procurement process, Edo was #1. In terms of transparency, we were #1. We had archived 20 million files in our database, such that from 1999 till we left government, any information you want about Edo State, we had it in our database. We had laid over 2,000 kilometers of fiber optic cables connecting all 18 local government councils in the state. We were the first state to ever have a Tier 3 data center, that even some national governments do not even have. So Edo was different. You see, people generally agree that although Edo was in the same physical, geographical location as Nigeria, we're not at the same developmental space as Nigeria. We were going far above what you could normally expect of a subnational in Africa. But suddenly, how can it be that the present Edo State government has given the enforcement or collection of revenues from market women or bus drivers and small businesses to touts and hooligans and lunatics? How can it be that a state is now giving statutory functions of revenue collection to third parties? That is illegal and unconstitutional. And these are the issues that really bother the people. The people are saying that in education, what's your plan for education? The governor showed us 3 classroom blocks that he had been able to construct in 100 days. I was not expecting to see projects, very honestly, but we were expecting to see policy direction. We're expecting to understand the trajectory of this government. Can the governor even come to express himself to the people? Let's understand the quality of your thoughts if you must lead us. And that is why the people are hopeful that the judiciary will stand up to the occasion and do what is right and give Asue Ighodalo, who truly won the highest number of lawful votes, his mandate back.
Now, if we look at the Okpebholo administration, he did inherit both the successes and the unfinished business of the previous administration, and transitioning into governance in itself can be a complex process, often filled with unforeseen challenges. In your view, what have been the most significant obstacles that you see faced by the administration so far? How effectively do you think that they've been handled? And do you think that the governor's policies and early decisions provide a strong indication of the administration's long-term vision for Edo State? You did mention a few things, even including the pains and agony that the market women and the rest of those sectors are crying out about, the frequent taxation, for example. What do you think that those challenges are, and how much of an indication are we seeing for his long-term vision for Edo State?
Well, thank you. At the twilight of our government, we made a transition report, and we made it available to the succeeding government. We wanted to have an avenue where we could cross-pollinate and share ideas. This is where we are as a state. These are our assets and liabilities. These are ongoing projects. And we also wanted to give suggestions to those who were coming after us on how they could travel along that same journey of progress. We left, an asset of about 970 billion naira for the succeeding government. We left debt, of course, of about 400 billion, and a bulk of it was international foreign debts that had accrued, over a decade and a half. And of course, because of the exchange rate, it's blossomed, if you allow me to use that. But then we also left for the government 30 billion naira in the state treasury account. We left 16 billion naira in the Exopodec account. We left 2 billion naira in EIRS, 1.8 billion in the Ministry of Physical Planning. The very week we left, we had received $2.5 million from the World Bank for the Edo-based program. And in a few days' time, they'll be receiving another $5 million, from the World Bank, and also 16 billion from the UBEC. So there were no obstacles designed for this government. Because, Basaki had laid down the foundation, and he had, wanted them to travel along that same path. So there's really no obstacles. That is why you could see that in the very same week where this administration was inaugurated, the governor gave out contracts of over 10 billion for the purchase of vehicles. These were done without budgetary allocation. These were done without a legislative approval. These were done without the State Tenders Board. There was no procurement process. And the people are wondering, do you just spend monies just like that? There ought to be a decent measure put in place by government to take over from a government that is leaving. But they refuse to have that handshake with us. But however, we left a transition report for the Edo people, and it's online as well, because we did everything using technology. So you could see what we have done and what we suggest that you should do if you want to make that much progress. So there's been no policy direction of this government. We heard them tell us that they're going to give cutlass and hose to 5,000 farmers, and we're wondering, in 2025, you're still talking about subsistence farming with cutlass and hoes when you took over from a government that had made Edo State #1 in oil palm production in Nigeria. We had set aside 10,000 hectares of land for oil palm cultivation and production. That is why the two companies doing the best in the stock exchange today in oil palm is Presco and Okomu, that from Edo State. A government set that foundation. We had 2 ethanol plants, such that cassava farmers in Edo and around Edo States were having a field day because our 2 ethanol plants needed about 50 trucks of cassava daily, and we just couldn't meet that demand. So what were we doing? We're energizing farmers, giving them improved yield, giving them access to more land to cultivate more cassava so that they could meet local consumption needs, and also so we could have enough to feed the mills. So Edo State was, like I said, on a trajectory of tremendous progress, where even the average Edo person could see that now our taxes are being used for the progress of the state. We moved our taxpayers' count from 131,000 in 2016 to 372,000 in 2024. We moved our GDP from 2 trillion in 2016 to 6 trillion in 2024. We moved our IGR from 2 billion in 2016 to about 7 billion in 2024. So you could see that Edo had no mates in the Committee of States in Nigeria. And for the fact that we have had to move from an Obaseki to what we have presently is surprising and is hurtful. If you go on the streets of Edo today, what they tell us is that please fight for us, fight for the people. Go to the tribunal, put forth your evidence before the courts, submit those documents before the courts. Let us have our mandate back, because the person or the people who appear to be in government now, they do not have the confidence of the people because they do not have the imprimatur of the people through the elections.
Well, I think you have said quite a bit today. We thank you so much for your submission and wish you all the best. Ogbede Ifalui Isiobor, the former commissioner for digital economy in Edo State.